Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tvameva Mada cha Pida Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma Tvameva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma Tvameva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma. Om Amriteshwari Namah. Let's begin with a short meditation. Kindly sit straight and make sure your vertebral column, your spinal column is erect. Slowly concentrate on your breath. Breathing normally but becoming fully aware of each and every breath. As you become more and more aware, you relax, and as a result of the natural relaxation, the eyes will close without any effort. And now we'll chant Om 3 times. And as we chant Om, imagine the sound of Om to arise from your navel area. And visualize the sound traveling upwards along your spine and cleansing the body, the mind, and the atmosphere around you. Now kindly take a deep breath. Feel the reverberations of Om throughout your body, in each and every cell of the body. Once again, slowly focus your awareness on your breathing, breathing normally, and awareness. Now as you breathe in, chant the mantra, the syllable Ma, along with your in-breath. And hold your breath for a few seconds. And then breathe out, chanting Om. So Ma, when you breathe in, hold your breath. And when you breathe out, Om. Continue like this for some time. Ma Om Ma and continue for some time like this. Slowly and slowly the reverberations of Ma and Om become more and more subtle. You can just feel the energy or the vibrations of Ma and Om rather than the physical sound. As the energies of Ma and Om penetrate into your deep core, feel your heart opening up just like a bud that blossoms into a beautiful flower. Feel the joy, feel the happiness, feel the bliss. Imagine the light of Ma and Om, which represents love and light, going out from your heart to all the beings in this world. And as the light falls on each and every one of them, imagine they become more loving, more peaceful, and more blissful, and more happy. And while doing so, let's chant the Loka Samasta prayer 9 times. Om Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Dhyayamo Dhavlavagunthinavatim Tejomayim Naishtikim Snigdha Pangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmidashri Mukhim Valsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shamangim Madhusikta Suktim Amritanandatmikam Ishwarim. Om Narayanam Patma Bhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim cha tatputram parasharam Vyasam shugam gaudapadam mahandam Govinda yogindram madhasya shishyam Sri Shankaracharyam madhasya patmapadam cha hastamalakam cha Shishyam tam todakam Vartikagarimanyan Asmat Gurun Santadamanadosmi. It has been a long gap between the last session and this one. So just refresh what we were discussing earlier. We're talking about the story of Prahlada and Prahlada's father Hiranyakashipu. As you know, Hiranyakashipu was the reincarnation of the gatekeepers of Vishnu, known as Jaya and Vijaya. And Jaya and Vijaya were, while they were in the Vishnu Loka, being the gatekeepers, one day the Sapta Rishis, the 7 saints, came to visit Lord Vishnu. And of course, Lord Vishnu was resting, so Jaya Vijaya had instructions that nobody should go inside. So when they came, Jaya Vijaya, they stopped the Sapta Rishis and told them that they cannot go in, and because of which the Rishis got very angry with them and cursed them. And what happened was they were sent to the human world, or the Manushya Loka, but they were given the choice that they could take many births as human beings, but they will be the devotees of Lord Vishnu. But at the same time, the other choice was that they can take only 3 births, being the enemies of Lord Vishnu. So if you become an enemy of the Lord, it's much more powerful than becoming a devotee. That doesn't mean that you should become an enemy. But as what it actually translates is, because when you have anger, the anger is much more powerful than love. Even though love and anger are the 2 sides of the same coin. So when you have anger to someone, you cannot have anger, like for example, you cannot have anger to a table. Get angry. Why? Because it's an object you don't love. But you get angry to somebody who did something to you, and because you love them, or you know them, or you respect them. So the love and anger, as I was saying, being the 2 sides of the same coin, anger is more powerful because it's more directed, and what happens is it is more focused than love. Love is diffused. I mean, ultimately love should also become like anger, more focused. But in this case, when the anger comes, here you can see that they are constantly thinking about the Lord only. So they were given the choice between 3 births as enemies or many births as the devotees of Lord Vishnu. So they chose that they would rather take only 3 births and go back to the Vishnu Loka rather than taking many births. So that's how Jaya and Vijaya were born as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha in the Satya Yuga. And in the Treta Yuga, they were born as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And that is in the Treta Yuga is when Lord Rama was there. And then finally in the Dwapara Yuga, that is when Lord Krishna was alive. He born as Shishupala and Dandavakra in the Dwapara Yuga. So what happened was, we are now discussing about Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. And Hiranyaksha was, what he did was he went and hid the earth. Then Lord Vishnu came as the boar, which is the Varaha Avatara. And he saved the earth and killed Hiranyaksha. And so Hiranyakashipu was very angry because his brother was killed by Lord Vishnu. So he went first and he consoled his brother's family with great philosophy and explaining to them that the body is impermanent, so you should not grieve and all these things. So he was telling them the different stories where he was talking about how the king, one of the stories of the king of Usinara, that the king's name was Suyajna, and how his many wives were grieving over his death, and finally Lord Yama appeared there, and Lord Yama himself, the god of death, was advising the ladies, that is the wives of the of the king, Suyajna, and telling them, giving them spiritual advice. And then also he was talking about the story of the Kulinga birds, where there were two birds, and it was the husband and the wife. And what happened was the wife was killed by the hunter, and the husband was grieving because the wife was dead and looking at the dead body. And as he was grieving and looking at the female bird, the hunter also killed the male bird also. So he was saying that while lamenting about the death of somebody else, we are not thinking about our own death. And our own death is so close. So Hiranyakashipu was giving all this advice to the wife of Hiranyaksha and his children. And so now what we see is that Hiranyakashipu becoming angry at Lord Vishnu for killing his brother. So now Narada said, "O king, Hiranyakashipu desired to make himself invincible, deathless and unaging, and the unchallenged sovereign over all the worlds. For this he performed the most terrible forms of austerity in the valley of the Mandara mountain. Holding his hands up and with gaze fixed on the sky, he stood on his toes. The matted hair on the crown of his head sent forth gleams of light which made him look like the sun at the time of cosmic dissolution. And while he was performing tapas, the devas who had been expelled used the chance to go back to their heavenly abodes. From his head emerged the fire of tapas, along with smoke which spread up, down, across, and around about, burned the worlds. The rivers and the ocean swelled up and became turbulent. The earth with its mountains and continents experienced tremors. Planets and stars seemed to fall down. All the 10 directions seemed to be aglow with fire. So this is as a result of the intense tapas as the austerity of Hiranyakashipu. So, as we do the tapas, he's doing intense austerity. It affects all the earth, all the heavens, and even the hell. So that's what he's saying. And scorched by the fire of his tapas, the devas left their heavenly abodes, resorted to the realm of Brahma. Brahma is the creator, and represented to him thus: O Lord of Lords and protector of the worlds. The tapas, or the austerity that is performed by the asura, is making it impossible for us to remain in the Swargaloka, which is Indra's heaven. And if you want to save the worlds and its inhabitants who offer you tribute, be gracious enough to do so before it's too late, before they all perish in the fire of the asura's tapas. So why is he performing this kind of fierce and difficult form of tapas? It's not a matter unknown to your all-knowing self. Yet may you be pleased to hear the following representation of his object. So they're saying to Lord Brahma, the creator, see this Hiranyakashipu is doing a lot of intense austerity tapas. And he is, with the heat that has been generated, we cannot even stay in heaven. And so there is also that it's not that he's doing it selflessly, he has a purpose. So he said, having created this whole universe of moving and unmoving beings by his tapas and spiritual power, Brahma is residing in the first and the most superior of the regions he has created, namely Satyaloka. That region I will gain by the power of my tapas, communion and concentration. It does not matter if my present body dies before this result is achieved, for time and the Atman have no end. I will therefore attain this goal through repeated births if needed be. And by my power, I will transform the whole world from what it is today by making it topsy-turvy, making celestials into asuras and asuras into celestials, virtue into vice and vice into virtue. And what is the use of attaining to perishable realms like those of Dhruva related to Vishnu, which will meet with dissolution at the end of Kalpa? We have heard that it is with such determination that he is performing this extreme form of tapas. It is better that you, who are the Lord of all three worlds, take steps sufficiently early to meet this situation. It will indeed be a pity if he overruns your realm of Satyaloka, for it is the refuge of all holy and innocent jivas, a place where they can have happiness, prosperity, welfare, and progress. On being supplicated thus by the devas, the worshipful Brahma, the self-born, accompanied by sages like Bhrigu, Daksha, and others, went to where the asura was performing tapas. So they say, the devas, the deities, the gods went and told Brahma that this is the purpose of his tapas, that he wants to conquer everything. And this is what they have heard. Even he wants to conquer the Satyaloka, where Lord Brahma resides. Satya means truth, and Loka is the world, or world of truth. So he's saying that the reason why he wants to conquer is so that he can turn everything upside down. He can make the devas, that is the celestials, into asuras, demons, and the demons into devas. So, and also he wants to do everything. So he wants to make the Devaloka, the Asura Loka. So all these things he wants to do this. So he's not doing it with a good intention. And so they are supplicating to Lord Brahma, saying that even your Loka, your world, will be destroyed by him. Why? Because it is your world that supports all the great saints and sages and all the people who follow the path of truth. So the people who are saints and sages and they do spiritual practices, they come to Satyaloka. So even that, he wants to destroy that. So when they heard this, Brahma, when along with the sages, went to visit Hiranyakashipu, where he was doing his intense austerity. At first, the Asura, that is Hiranyakashipu, who was, as it were burning the world by his tapas, could not be seen, as his body, of which a great part of fat, skin, muscles and blood had already been eaten by ants, was hidden beneath a mold of anthills, grass and reeds. Catching sight of him on careful observation like the sun behind the clouds, Brahma, the swan-vehicled deity, was astounded and said smilingly. So when Brahma went to see Hiranyakashipu, he was not to be seen. Why? Because his whole body was eaten by ants and he was inside an ant hill. So then finally Brahma saw him and said, "O son of Kashyapa." Because why? You remember the story of Kashyapa and having two wives, Diti and Aditi. And so they were, the gods were gods were, the devas were the sons of Aditi, and then the demons, the asuras, were the sons of Diti. So what happens is, the sons of, he's addressing them as sons of Kashyapa, a great sage Kashyapa, and says, "O son of Kashyapa, your tapas has come to its fulfillment. You may abandon your austere posture now. I have come here ready to give you whatever boon you ask for. Choose the boons you want. I am astonished at your wonderful determination, because of which, even when ants have eaten away all the flesh of your body, you are still sustaining your vitality, the prana, on your bony skeleton. No rishi in the past practiced such austerity, nor can anyone today, who can retain life for 100 divine years without taking even a drop of water. I have been conquered by you on account of this tremendous determination you have displayed, which no sage of disciplined mind can rival. O leader of the Asuras, I am therefore ready to grant you everything you want. The vision of an immortal like me shall not be in vain for a person like you with a limited span of life." So, saying so, Brahma, the first of all beings who possessed powers that never fail, sprinkled the celestially potent water from his water pot, that is the Kamandalu, on the ant-eaten frame of Hiranyakashipu. So Brahma is praising Hiranyakashipu, saying that nobody has performed austerities like you. And nobody will again. And you have done such great austerities. And because of which, as he was saying, his whole body has been eaten by ants, and he is still sustaining the prana, that is the life force in your body. And also, you have not drank water for 100 divine years. So that's what he's saying. You have not drank water for 100 divine years. So, and then he takes water, and they say Brahma is the first he's the creator, as well as he was the one who was created first, because he himself should have been a creator to create all the creation. So Brahma was the the person who was born. So the Asura, that is Hiranyakashipu, when he was sprinkled water, immediately rose up from the mold of the earth, a young man in full mental and physical vigor, with all organs intact, and the body as hard as adamant. Like fire emerging from the fire sticks, he emerged from the bush of reeds and earth with the glow of molten gold. When he saw Brahma in the sky seated on his swan vehicle, he fell down in prostration before him in great joy. Shedding tears of joy and saluting him with folded hands, he began to extol Brahma in a hymn, with his voice faltering and hair standing on the end. So when Brahma sprinkled the water on Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyakashipu got back his youth and he became a very young man. And then when he saw Brahma, he started praising Brahma. So Hiranyakashipu said, when time had engulfed everything in darkness at the end of the previous cosmic cycle, thou, the self-luminous consciousness, again manifested it by thy light. With thy three aspects of Rajas, Sattva and Tamas, which are the three qualities, thou createst, preservest and destroyest this universe. Salutations to thee, the support of three gunas of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, and the highest being who infills everything. Salutations to the primeval seed. Salutations to him who has the knowledge of the unity of existence and the multiplicity as established in the unity. Salutations to him who comes into clear manifestation as the prana, the indriyas, that is the sense organs, mind, intellect and the like. And as the mukhya prana, that is the principal vital energy, otherwise known as Sutratman, one pervading everything like a string through beads. Sutra means bead. And thou art the master and controller of all living beings and non-living beings. Thou art the master of their consciousness, life force, mind and senses. Thou art the great being that controls and directs matter, external sense organs, and the internal instrument of knowledge. Through the Veda which constitutes thy body, wherein sacrifices require, 4 priests are expounded. Thou hast given to the world the 7 types of sacrifices. Thou art the one soul which of all living beings, the eternal and the limitless one, and the knower of all. Thou art the winkless time, who in the form of moments and longer measures dost reduce the lifespan of all beings and ultimately bring them to their death. Thou art the creator of everything. Thou art in the least affected by thy work of creation, unmodified spirit, Lord of all, and beginningless and partless being. Thou vivifiest all with life. There is nothing whatever as cause and effect, as the moving and the unmoving, that exist apart from thee, and all knowledge, sacred and secular, are thy form. Thou art the vast, all-comprehending being who is beyond the pradhana and who is described as the Hiranyagarbha, the mystic golden egg who holds the whole universe. So he goes on praising Lord Brahma. So he says, now he comes to the point. So, O thou, the greatest among boon givers, if it pleasest thee to give me the boon that I desire, grant that none among thy creations shall be able to kill me. It should be impossible to kill me during night or day, on the earth or in the sky, by man or animal. No weapon too should be capable of killing me. I should not meet death with death, from entities with life or without life, from devas or asuras, including great serpents. Grant that no opponent will be able to face me in battle, and that I shall be the emperor of all the worlds. And may I have that imperishable glory and splendor which thou and the protecting deities possess naturally, and which great men acquire by tapas and yoga. So he is asking one of the most impossible things. What is that? So first, he wants immortality. So first of all, we know that it is impossible to have immortality. And secondly, he's giving all these conditions, saying that it should not be killed by a man or an animal, any of Brahma's creation. Then it should not be day or night. It should not be up in the sky nor in the earth. So all these conditions are being given to him. So asked by him to Brahma. And Narada said, when Hiranyakashipu prayed like this to Brahma, the latter, who was so much pleased with him for his great austerity, granted him these extraordinary boons he prayed for. So Brahma has to, when he appears, that's what happens. They have to grant boons. No matter whatever is being asked, they have to grant it. So Brahma, the creator, grants the boons. And Brahma said, "O dear one, it's not usual for people to be granted the type of boons you have asked for they are so extraordinary. So whatever you asked is not ordinary. Yet, I am granting them to you." And after granting these boons, the worshipful Brahma, whose blessing will never fail in its effect, departed, receiving the praise and worship of the Asura and of the Prajapatis. So, with all this, after granting the boon to Hiranyakashipu, Brahma went back to his abode, the Satyaloka. So when we see these characters, and we have these great sages, as well as the demons or the asuras, doing penance and austerities. And what is the difference between these two is that when the sages, when they perform their austerity, and the great saints perform austerity, they don't ask for anything in return. Why? Because that's when it becomes selfless. When the asuras, the demons, actually the demons do much more, as we can see, much more potent and powerful austerities than the sages. They can stand on one leg, they can forgo food for so many years together, food and water, and they do such intense austerity. But as like the Amma story, it's like sowing seeds on the top of the mountain, on the rock. What happens when you sow seed? It's of no use. So like that, when they do all these austerities, because of their selfishness, because of their wanting, what happens is, whatever they ask for is such a foolish thing. And, even though they ask for the most impossible things, we will see they are being granted because they have to be granted. And as a result of which, Lord Vishnu has to take that form, which we are going to see later. So what happened now, Hiranyakashipu had now a body golden in complexion. So this is what happens when the asuras, when the demons get that power through austerities. And strengthened by the boon, he now resolved to wreak vengeance on Mahavishnu for killing his brother. So now he wanted to take vengeance on Mahavishnu. The great Asura conquered all the three worlds and brought them under his control. The leaders of the Devas, Asuras and men, of the Gandharvas, Garudas and the serpents of the Siddhas. So these are all the different kinds of subtle beings. And of rishis, of the sages, pitris, that is the dead ancestors, and the manus, and the yakshas, pishachas, and the demons of the pretas, goblins, and species of beings were all conquered and brought under the control by him. So Hiranyakashipu went and conquered everything. Appropriating to himself the power and the status of the guardian deities of the quarters also, he now claimed himself to be the conqueror of all the worlds. And so now he moved his residence to the realm of Swarga, that is Indra's heaven, which was blazoned by the glory of the heavenly gardens of the celestials. So this is what happens to them. Slowly what happens, they attack all these places, and when they go to these places, what he did, instead of doing good, there he stayed in the palace of Indra. Indra is the god of, or the king of all the gods, which was built by the celestial craftsman Vishwakarma, and which was the home of all beauty and prosperity in the universe. And there could be seen terraces of emerald, reached by flights of steps made of coral, as also walls of crystal and rows of pillars made of, that is Vaiduria, that is diamonds. There could be seen canopies with artistic designs, seats made of ruby, beds as white and clean and soft as the foam of milk, festooned with strings of pearl. There went about handsome women of sparkling teeth, whose anklets tinkled as they moved, and who saw their own faces reflected in the surface, set with precious stones in several places. So these are all description of the heaven of Indra, the king of the gods. So I don't know why they talk about the teeth of the women rather than the beauty. So they say they have, their teeth is so white, sparkling. So the Asura, powerful in body and mind, was now the unchallenged and the supreme ruler of all the worlds, and enjoyed life in the Indra's residence, served by all the devas, subdued by the rigors of his fiercely oppressive rule. So now everybody, all the gods became his slaves. And he said, Narada says, "O dear one, all the divinities except the Trimurtis waited with presents on him." So all the deities except the trinities, that is Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, waited upon Hiranyakashipu with presents, whose eyes were red under the influence of strong drink, and who possessed extraordinary vigor of body, senses and mind, augmented by the power of tapas and yoga. O scion of Pandu's line, on who had thus occupied the seat of Indra by virtue of his power, we sages like Vishwavasu, Tumburu and myself sang panegyries. So did Gandharvas, Apsaras, Siddhas, Vidyadharas and other species of beings. He began to be worshipped by the followers of Varnashrama Dharma, that is Vedic social system, by sacrifices in which great amounts were paid as dakshina, that is sacrificial presents. By his power, he appropriated for himself the sacrificial portions set apart for various deities. The earth, with its 7 continents, began to yield him all her products without any agricultural operation. So also the heavens gave plentiful showers of highly desired rains, and the upper regions of air reveal many kinds of wonders. The rivers and the 7 oceans of salt, water, liquor, ghee, honey, yogurt, milk, and pure water all brought the tributes of precious gems with their baby arms. The mountains prepared their caves for his sports. The trees yielded flowers and fruits in all seasons. He took upon himself all the powers of the guardian deities of the quarters. So what happened? He became the ruler of all the worlds and took all whatever that can be given by the different aspects of nature, like the earth gave him everything, the sky gave him, and the deities also, whatever has to go to the deities, he also accepted everything. So thus he conquered all the worlds and became the suzerain over them all, but he failed to conquer his own senses. So this is the most important thing, where we have to understand. He conquered all the worlds, but what happened? He failed to conquer his own senses. So if you conquer and you become the emperor of all the world, yet you cannot conquer your own senses. If your senses are not under your control, then what is the use? That's what they are showing. Consequently, though indulging in every form of pleasure, he felt no satisfaction. That is the whole consequence. Even if you become the emperor or the king of all 3 worlds, and if you cannot conquer your own senses, nothing can give you satisfaction. Infatuated with wealth and power, arrogant and a law unto himself in complete transgression of all scriptural injunctions, he attracted on himself the curses of all holy men, but nonetheless ruled the world in this way for more than 71 yugas. So this is how long he ruled. So he ruled for 71 yugas. So each yuga, we can say that it is about 60,000 years. And so he ruled for 71 yugas, so multiply that. So long. And writhing in agony under his oppressive rule, all the worlds with their rulers at last took refuge in Achyuta. Achyuta is Lord Vishnu, the indestructible being, having failed to get relief from any other quarter. They prayed salutations to that realm where all-pervading Hari manifests in a form, and attaining which there is no return to samsara, for holy men of great purity and tranquility. Praying like this with a pure and concentrated mind, with the senses under control and giving up food and sleep, they invoked Mahavishnu, the master of the senses. So that's what the Devas did. So they kept their senses under control and prayed to Lord Mahavishnu. While they were so hymning, they heard all of a sudden the disembodied voice, deep and reverberating like the sound of thunder, which evoked joy and confidence in the minds of all good people. So this was Mahavishnu. And the voice said, "O leaders of the celestials, do not entertain any fear. May you be happy and prosperous. My communion through sight or hearing works for the all-round good of beings. I am already aware of the wickedness of this most degenerate Asura, and I shall curb him, but you have to wait a little more. When anybody comes to entertain hatred towards celestials, Vedas, holy men, innocent creatures, Dharma, God, know his ruin to be near at hand. Though he is fortified in his strength by the boons he has received, I shall bring about his destruction when he persecutes his son Prahlada, who is free from antagonisms, who is tranquil and high-souled. So this is what happens. Mahavishnu says, what happens that anybody comes to entertain hatred towards celestials, Vedas, holy men, innocent creatures, dharma, God. So understand that his ruin is going to happen soon. It does not matter whether he has the strength and he has the boons, but his destruction will be certain. So he said, wait till his son Prahlada is born, and his destruction will happen through his son Prahlada. So this is where Mahavishnu tells the celestials, that the devas, so saying that Hiranyakashipu will meet his end, and I will certainly come and destroy him. So we will end here for today, and in the next one they will see about Prahlada and the character of Prahlada and what happens to Hiranyakashipu. Om Amriteshwariya Namah. Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma,
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 Amritamayi, Anandamayi, Amritanandamayi, Ma,
Amritamayi, Anandamayi, Amritanandamayi, Ma,
Amritamayi, Anandamayi, Amritanandamayi, Ma, Shantimayi, Suhasamayi, Amritanandamayi,
Shantimayi, Suhasamayi, Amritanandamayi,
Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma,
Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma, Ambe Ma, Jagadambe Ma,
मैं हूँ अनाथ तू ही माता,
मैं हूँ अनाथ, तू ही माता,
माया दीदा सद्गुरु माता,
मायातीत सद्गुरु माता,
वेद पुराण तू ही गीता,
वेद पुराण तू ही गीता,
अमृतमयी अम्बे माँ, अम्बे माँ, जगदम्बे माँ,
अम्बे माँ, जगदम्बे माँ,
अम्बे माँ, जगदम्बे माँ,
अम्बे माँ, जगदम्बे माँ,
अमृतमयी आनंदमयी, अमृतानंदमयी,
अमृतमयी, आनन्दमयी, अमृतानन्दमयी,
वाणी वीणा पाणि ब्रह्माणि,
वाणी वीणा पाणि ब्रह्माणि,
लक्ष्मी नारायणि मा कल्याणी,
लक्ष्मी नारायणी मा कल्याणी,
त्रिशूलवाणि अम्बा भवानी,
त्रिशूलपाणि अम्बा भवानी,
अमृतमयी अम्बे माँ, अम्बे माँ, जगदम्बे माँ,
अम्बे माँ,
अमृतमयी आनन्दमयी अमृतानन्दमयी शान्तिमयी सुहासमयी जगदम्बे अम्बे जगदम्बे
अम्बे जगदम्बे अम्बे जगदम्बे
अम्बे जगदम्बे जगदम्बे
अम्बे जगदम्बे
गणपति गुण निधि तेरे गुण गायक हम प्यारे
गणपति गुण निधि तेरे गुण गायक हम प्यारे
गणपति गुण निधि तेरे गायक हम प्यारे
गणपति गुण निधि तेरे गुण गायक हम प्यारे
सब विधि तू रखवारे हर ले दुख हमारे
सब विधि तू रखवारे हर ले दुख हमारे
गणपति करुणा करना तू गुण निधि सब वर देता तू गज मुख मंगल भरना तू गणनायक भय हरना तू
गणपति करुणा करना तू गुण निधि सब वर देता तू गज मुख मंगल भरना तू गणनायक भय हरना तू
गणपति करुणा करना तू गुण निधि सब वर देता तू गज मुख मंगल भरना तू गणनायक भय हरना तू
गणपति करुणा करना तू गुण निधि सब वर देता तू गज मुख मंगल भरना तू गणनायक भय हरना तू
सुंदर कंजर वदना जन पर करुणा करना।
सुंदर कंजर वदना, जन पर करुणा करना।
मुद मंगल सब भरना, तू करुणा का झरना।
मुद मंगल सब भरना, तू करुणा का झरना।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गिरिजानंदन वर दे, पद वंदन हम करते।
गिरिजानंदन वर दे, पद वंदन हम करते।
तेरा यश जो गाते, उनके बंधन मिट दे।
तेरा यश जो गाते, उनके बंधन मिट दे।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणनदि करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
गणपति करुणा करना तू, गुण निधि सब वर देता तू। गज मुख मंगल भरना तू, गणनायक भय हरना तू।
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 കൃഷ്ണ കൃഷ്ണ മുകുന്ദ ജനാർദ്ദന കൃഷ്ണ ഗോവിന്ദ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
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 അച്യുതാനന്ദ ഗോവിന്ദ മാധവ സച്ചിദാനന്ദ 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 നാരായണ ഹരേ.
കൃഷ്ണ വാസുദേവ 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 ഹരേ.
കൃഷ്ണ വാസുദേവ
ഗരുഡ ഗമന കംസാരേ മധുസൂദന
ഗരുഡ ഗമന കംസാരേ മധുസൂദന.
ഗരുഡ ഗമന കംസാരേ മധുസൂദന
ഗരുഡ ഗമന കംസാരേ മധുസൂദന.
മദന ഗോപാല നാരായണ ഹരേ.
മദന ഗോപാല നാരായണ ഹരേ.
മുരളി കൃഷ്ണ മുരാരേ മനമോഹന
മുരളി കൃഷ്ണ മുരാരേ മനമോഹന.
നന്ദനന്ദന നാരായണ ഹരേ.
നന്ദനന്ദന നാരായണ ഹരേ.
കൃഷ്ണ വാസുദേവ 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 ഹരേ.
രാമ രാമ നരസിംഹ പുരുഷോത്തമ
രാമ രാമ നരസിംഹ പുരുഷോത്തമ.
രാമ രാമ നരസിംഹ പുരുഷോത്തമ
രാമ രാമ നരസിംഹ പുരുഷോത്തമ.
രാഘവ രാമ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
രാഘവ രാമ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
രാവണാരേ കോദണ്ഡ രാമ രഘുവര
രാവണാരേ ഗോദണ്ഡ രാമ രഘുവര.
രാവണാരേ കോദണ്ഡ രാമ രഘുവര
രാവണാരേ ഗോദണ്ഡ രാമ രഘുവര.
രാക്ഷസാന്തക നാരായണ ഹരേ.
രാക്ഷസാന്തക നാരായണ ഹരേ.
പത്മനാഭ പരമേശ സനാതന
പത്മനാഭ പരമേശ സനാതന.
പത്മനാഭ പരമേശ സനാതന
പത്മനാഭ പരമേശ സനാതന.
പരമപുരുഷ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
പരമപുരുഷ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
പാണ്ഡുരംഗ വിഠല പുരന്ദര
പാണ്ഡുരംഗ വിഠല പുരന്ദര.
പാണ്ഡുരംഗ വിഠല പുരന്ദര
പാണ്ഡുരംഗ വിഠല പുരന്ദര.
പുണ്ടരീകാക്ഷ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
പുണ്ഡരീകാക്ഷ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
പുണ്ടരീകാക്ഷ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
പുണ്ഡരീകാക്ഷ നാരായണ ഹരേ.
Krishna Vasudeva Hare,
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 Srinivasa Aniruddha Dharanidhara,
Srinivasa Aniruddha Dharanidhara,
Srinivasa Aniruddha Dharanidhara,
Srinivasa Aniruddha Dharanidhara,
Aprameyatma Narayana Hare,
Aprameyatma Narayana Hare,
Deenabandho Bhagavanta Dayanidhe,
Deenabandho Bhagavanta Dayanidhe,
Deenabandho Bhagavanta Dayanidhe,
Deenabandho Bhagavanta Dayanidhe,
Devagitanaya Narayana Hare,
Devaki Tanaya Narayana Hare,
Krishna Vasudeva 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 Hare,
Narayana 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 Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana,
Narayana 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 Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana,
Narayana 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 Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Namo Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Namo Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Lakshmi 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 Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana
Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana Narayana Krishna Vasudeva Hare, Krishna Vasudeva Hare. जय जगदम्बे दुर्गे माँ, जय मनमोहिनी भद्री माँ।
जय जगदम्बे दुर्गे माँ, जय मनमोहिनी भद्रे माँ।
जय जगदम्बे दुर्गे माँ, जय मनमोहिनी भद्रे माँ।
जय जगदम्बे दुर्गे माँ, जय मनमोहिनी भद्रे माँ।
जन्म विनाशिनी जय जय माँ, जगदोद्धारिणी श्रीकरी 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 माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ।
विष्णु विलासिनी लक्ष्मी माँ, विश्व विमोहिनी पार्वती 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 माँ।
विद्यादायिनी सरस्वती माँ, विमल सुहासिनी जय जय माँ।
विद्यादायिनी सरस्वती माँ, विमल सुहासिनी जय जय माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ।
कामितदायिनी देवी माँ, काम विनाशिनी काली 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 माँ।
कालस्वरूपिणी भैरवी माँ, करुणामयी अमृतेश्वरी 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 माँ।
जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ। जय माँ जय माँ जय माँ जय जय माँ
जय माँ जय माँ जय माँ जय जय माँ
जय माँ जय माँ जय माँ जय जय माँ अमृतेश्वरी मङ्गलं प्रणमदा मुक्तिप्रदे मङ्गलं भुवनेश्वरी मङ्गलं सुकृतिना एकाश्रये अमृतेश्वरी मङ्गलं प्रणमदा मुक्तिप्रदे मङ्गलं भुवनेश्वरी मङ्गलं सुकृतिना एकाश्रये हृदयेश्वरी मङ्गलं हृदिलसत्तेजोर्मयी मङ्गलं मृदुभाषिणी मङ्गलं विजयदा प्रेमाग्रे मङ्गलं विजयदा प्रेमाकृते मङ्गलं विजयदा प्रेमाकृते मङ्गलम्। मंगलकारिणी वंदे जननी अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी सकलागम निगमादिषु चरिते अमृतानंदमयी निखिलमयहर जननी वंदे अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी प्रेम रसामृत वशिनी माता अमृतानंदमयी प्रेम भक्ति संदायिनी माता अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी शमदमदायिनी मनलयकारिणी अमृतानंदमयी सददं मम हृदि वसदा देवी अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी पतितोद्धार निरंतर हृदये अमृतानंदमयी परमहंस पद निलये देवी अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी हे जननी जनि मरण निवारिणी अमृतानंदमयी हे सृजन परिपालिनी जयदा अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी सुरजन पूजित जय जगदम्बा अमृतानंदमयी सहज समाधिषु धन्ये देवी अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी ओम जय जय जगजननी वंदे अमृतानंदमयी मंगल आरती माता भवानी अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी माता अमृतानंदमयी जय बोलो सद्गुरु माता अमृतानंदमयी देवी की ओम असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ओम शांति 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 ओम लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ओम शांति शांति Shantihi. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.